It's easy to lose touch with reality when it's other people's money that you're spending, and there are so many things you want to do for those or this or that special interest group. So many programs, many of them quite attractive and well-meaning, that can only be subsidized by more government taxing, spending, and borrowing.
Well, isn't that pretty much what we're debating now? Taxing, spending, borrowing, mortgaging our kids' and our grandkids' future? Absolutely tone deaf to what happened this past election. That's what's going on in Washington. That and every other issue they're trying to don't ask, don't tell. The START treaty negotiations, the DREAM Act. Every one of these issues is being dealt with by our friends at the Heritage Foundation. Yesterday, 66 senators agreed to move forward towards a vote on this horrible START agreement with Russia. Now, we could even argue that ratification may be in the bag at this point. The Heritage Foundation points out in their great analysis on their website, askheritage.org, two major questions remain unanswered. Where are the negotiating documents, and when will we, the public, be allowed to see them? Those documents are crucial, and our leaders are actually considering ratifying the treaty without them, which is completely irresponsible, and the Heritage Foundation is arguing with that. Now, arguing that, and we need to know what concessions were made to Russia and why, bottom line. And all of this is up on their website. If you want to know about the DREAM Act, don't ask, don't tell. If you want to know about the START Treaty, if you want to know about the Omnibus Bill, if you want to know about the tax compromise, the Heritage Foundation has it at askheritage.org. And don't forget, if you become a proud member as I am, you can get your free 2011 Heritage Foundation calendar, and it features great conservative heroes like Ronald Reagan. And they actually put me in, and I'm very honored to be in this calendar. My first calendar ever. And no, I am not in a Speedo. It's all at askheritage.org. Askheritage.org, and help them continue providing intellectual firepower so we can battle back. Now, Senator Coburn was in a meeting just moments ago with the president. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. First, Senator-elect from the great state of Kentucky, Rand Paul, is back with us. Rand, how are you?
Hey, good to be with you, Sean. I can't believe you're telling me that Congress would actually pass legislation or a treaty without first reading or knowing all about it.
You know what bothers me? There's no reason that they had to do this. We could have stopped this if the Republicans would have held firm, and if they do hold firm, we can stop this. Give us an opportunity to read this, but this is one of like 50 things going on right now in this final moments of this Reid, Pelosi, Obama disaster.
Well, this omnibus bill that's going to be 2,000 pages never went to a committee, won't be read by any congressmen or senators before it's voted on, and this, to my mind, is exactly what the Tea Party is angry about. It's exactly what the last election was about. Read the bills. We just want them to read the bills, give us time to see the bills. We're just appalled that this is the way Washington works, and does it surprise anyone that they have a 13% approval rating?
It's pretty amazing. Let's start with the omnibus bill, which now we see is larded up with, 6,600 pork barrel projects, and obviously $1.2 trillion in spending. They didn't do their job all year long and pass appropriations bills on merits. It seems to me the right answer is don't try and do this in 3 days with the threat of a government shutdown. Pass, as the House did, a continuing resolution and let the new Congress deal with it.
Right, and I think they've always made this a false choice. It's either vote for what they want or government has to be shut down. I think there's an in-between choice, and I like to call it spend what you have. Why don't we only spend what comes in? And they say, oh, well, that wouldn't be enough money. We bring in $200 billion a month, $7 billion a day, and that's plenty of money to fund what government needs to do. So I tell them, let's have a proposal and call it spend what you have.
Mm-hmm. Look, I'm just, I got to be honest. I can't believe that they're trying to do this all in the final few days. What are your thoughts about how the Republicans, the current Republicans in the Senate and House, are handling this?
Well, I've been proposing that we couple spending cuts to any of these proposals, whether it's raising the debt ceiling or whether it's passing a continuing resolution or whether it's passing the extension of the Bush tax cuts. Let's attach to the compromise should be not more spending increases, but we should be attaching specific proposals. And I heard in your intro there talking about Heritage. I've been reading a lot of documents from Heritage. They've got great budget analysts over there, and we already have some stuff from Heritage that talks about $343 billion worth of wasteful spending that could be cut immediately. And when I get there in January, I've already worked on this with my staff. We're going to propose $500 billion in cuts. If they won't take that, we'll propose $400 billion, $300 billion. But you have to, if you're serious, you have to cut spending.
Well, it seems that the House, the newly elected House majority, is committed to that. As a matter of fact, Boehner told me on this program, Cantor, Ryan, McCarthy, and all the leadership, as I've had them on the program before and after the election, that they're going to bring up spending cut proposals each and every week for the first, session of Congress.
Right. Well,
So,
Senator Coburn, yesterday proposed $46 billion in cuts, and $46 billion is less than 2% of the budget. So it's a small amount of spending. It should be easy to get a majority there, and we got 47 votes. And the problem is the way they structured the debate is they didn't allow any amendments unless you suspended the rules, which takes a 2/3 vote. So really, there was no chance for Senator Coburn's amendment to pass. It was still worth putting out there, so we make people vote and we put them on record as to what they believe in, but they stacked the deck against us by saying you had to have a 2/3 vote to have any amendments.
all right, let's stay focused. First on the tax deal, you're right. There's $200 billion in extra spending. I know that Senator DeMint, I know that Mike Pence proposed a bill, and Michelle Bachmann has a variation on this bill that even goes further, that would eliminate the estate tax and the gift tax. But the bottom line is, why can't we have a straight up or down vote on whether or not we're going to raise taxes or not? Why can't we have a straight up and down vote on whether or not unemployment should be extended? Why can't we have a straight up and down vote on the death tax and what it should be, or if we should even have one? I'd like to see it eliminated. Why can't we have a straight up and down vote on the capital gains tax? It seems to me let's let the American people debate all these issues, but the president and Congress makes a deal, and we're told this is what we have to accept, and they lard it up with ethanol subsidies and rum subsidies and all, another $55-60 billion.
Yeah, I think if we all stuck together, if the Republicans in the Senate would stick together, we could have had a vote maybe just on extending the Bush tax cuts and make it stand alone and not add in the unemployment benefits and not add in all these other sweeteners. But it takes us standing together and telling the president that, look, we want to vote just on extending the tax cuts. But what I would have done is the compromise is not to add new spending. The compromise would be to keep the Bush tax cuts, but add spending cuts also to these.
Well, they're doing just the opposite. They're spending increases in this. So you wouldn't support this?
No, I've told people what I think we would do is if I were there, I would have tried to stop the whole debate and said, let's just extend the Bush tax cuts, and then let's discuss the unemployment benefits separately.
That's what DeMint is trying to do, but DeMint is like a voice in the wilderness.
Yeah, he got 37 votes for that, which means there is a group of people, but some of it's the negotiations. If you have enough to prevent cloture, if we have 41 votes, then what we do is we just tell them this is what we're going to do, and if you guys want to be responsible for not extending the tax cuts, then you'll be responsible. But that's what it's going to take, and we just maybe didn't have the votes, but we would have had the votes in January, and that's what Senator DeMint was proposing. Let's wait till January because we're going to have more votes at that point.
What do you think's going to happen with both that tax deal and the omnibus? Do you think they both pass?
Well, I think the better option is what Senator McConnell's proposing, which is a continuing resolution, and that would be just continuing funding everything at the current levels. My preference would actually be to fund everything at a reduced level and simply say we don't have enough money, let's do a continuing resolution with a 5% across the board cut, and that would actually go a long way towards not having to raise the debt ceiling. But even a continuing resolution is better than the omnibus bill, because the omnibus bill is an octopus that's going to get its tentacles into everything. And I think it'd be a really big mistake not to know what's in that bill before they vote on it.
Yeah, I know, but I got to be honest. You look at Senator Bob Bennett. He's indicated he's going to support it. It looks like other members of the Appropriations Committee are going to jump on and support this bill as well. They're on record now as saying that they're leaning towards it because, including Kit Bond, surprisingly, and some others.
Well, I liked Senator DeMint's proposal to have him read the bill. I think that would be entertaining. Let's have him read it out loud.
Yeah, he was going to do that with the START treaty and then apparently backed off. I'm not really sure why.
Well, the omnibus bill's 2,000 pages. I'm guessing it would take them a week to read that out loud.
Yeah, I think they ought to read the whole thing. No, they said it would be about 40 to 60 hours to read it. Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, well, then we would have at least known that someone had read the bill.
Well, you raise a point that I have been making. I've pointed out often that Bob McDonnell, the new governor of Virginia, he went back to 2006 spending levels. Now, the Republicans in the House have promised to go back to 2008 levels. Why not go back to 2006 levels? If we're really serious about balancing the budget, are we arguing that we can't live within our means with the 2006 budget? I think we ought to be able to function quite well.
Yeah, the other thing is they're not thinking these things through. You're right. We could go back a few years and we could actually balance the budget if we went back a few more years. But look at some of the proposals in this tax package. One of them is for reducing the payroll tax. I'm all for cutting taxes. I love the idea of cutting taxes, but you need to have spending cuts also. But the other problem with cutting the payroll tax is Social Security is underwater. It's an entitlement program that now spends more than it brings in, and they're going to make the situation even worse by reducing the payroll tax.
If we go back and use the Reagan model, Reagan, when he dropped the top marginal rates from 70 to 28%, it did everything it was supposed to do in terms of spurring economic activity in the country. And we created 21 million new jobs. That's people off the government dole, and they're now paying taxes. It doubled revenues to the government. The problem, you're right, is spending, because for every new dollar they brought in, the Democratic Congress in control at the time spent $1.78. And we never, right. It seems that we never get a hold of the spending addiction that goes on in that city.
And the key difference between Reagan's tax cuts and the Bush tax cuts was they were permanent. Businesses and individuals saw them as permanent.
Yeah.
So even extending these by 2 years is good and it's necessary, but it still doesn't give us the predictability to allow there to be an economic boom, because everybody in business is saying, oh, this is good, I can survive 2 more years, but at the end of 2 years I've got to go through this same nonsense again of can I run my business with increased taxes again in 2 years?
Listen, it was Jim DeMint that gave senators a choice yesterday. There was a vote. And then we had Scott Brown, Republican, Olympia Snowe, Republican, Susan Collins, Republican, Mark Kirk, Republican, George Voinovich, Republican, and one other. They wouldn't vote for the permanent extension of these tax cuts. So Republicans stopped that. Now the rest of the Republicans, in fairness to them, voted for it. And even one Democrat, Ben Nelson.
Right, and that might be an argument why we should have forced their hand all along, simply to say, let's hold off and just separate this and say, look, let's vote only on the extension of the Bush tax cuts, vote on them by themselves, or we won't let them have a vote. But I'm thinking maybe we gave in a little bit too early, because the reinforcements are coming in January. There's going to be 13 new Republicans seated in January, and we're going to have much better numbers in the Senate.
And not only that, we got strong conservatives like yourself and Marco Rubio and others that are going to have, join with Jim DeMint and stand on these conservative principles. Look, I'm going to tell you something, Senator-elect. You're going to watch. You're going to be on this program within the next year, and you're going to tell me stories about how you're going to be pressured to give in, compromise your principles. I promise you. And I just hope you stand as firm as you are now, because we're really looking towards people like yourself to get this job done.
Well, I appreciate that, and I've always told people I'm not afraid to be unelected, so I hope that the American people will be proud of me because I'm going to vote what's best for the country, even if it's difficult news.
By the way, did you see your father or did you hear your father when I interviewed him?
I did. I saw that clip on YouTube.
He loves me, your dad.
I think there's always been a love affair between the Pauls and the Hannitys.
I really do like your dad. I honestly, he's a good man.
Thank you.
All right, Rand, love having you on the program. All the best. Good luck January 5th. We'll be watching and wishing you the best. We need those strong conservative voices.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Hey, listen, folks, I have the greatest gift for mom, for your wife, for your girlfriend. By the way, I've been